Welcome to another episode of the Growth Compass. Shout out to our sponsor senders. If you want to do email deliverability, link somewhere down there. But if it wasn't for them, it wouldn't be possible to interview awesome people doing awesome things like Janus. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much, and very nice to meet you too.
Yeah, so this is cool. I got your website, up here right now. I'm reading some of the things that you put out, some of your opinions. I think you have a really interesting perspective, a really interesting product that you've been working on for a while. So a lot to talk about as far as your experience, expanding, growing, changing, all of these different areas. So for anyone that doesn't know yet, if you could give a brief introduction of yourself and what you're building.
Sure. Yeah, so as you said, my name is Janus. I'm a co-founder and a CTO of our company called Pixelz. And in Pixelz, we help brands and retailers optimize their images and videos by doing retouching, basically. And we do that at very high scale and at a consistent quality and a good price. And of course, we do all of that with a lot of technology. So we started the company in 2011. We come from a background, we were three guys who started the company, and we come from a background of starting tech companies. So from the very beginning, we thought about all of this as a tech company, even though I guess you could discuss if we were really a tech company in the beginning.
Uh-huh.
So the technology is kind of built into the core and the culture of the company.
Yeah, well, something that because I do want to get into a little bit about how you got here in the first place, but something that I can't, that I, burning curiosity is that you see something like this, and if you're involved technically, you read stuff in the last 3 years for what's it been like 4 years, 5 years, you look at it and say, oh, they're obviously using AI to do, all their stuff. And then you go and you look, and it's been around since 2011. So, obviously there was something else you guys were doing. There's some other methods or something else, some other technology, whatever it was that you guys built the company on initially. So can you just speak to that a little bit
Yeah,
about, yeah, how you started it, but then also what, if any, impact AI has had?
yeah, yeah. So when we started the company, we basically had a service that was a lot of retouchers, graphic designers. We had built a few other companies, and when we did that, we ended up building a team in Vietnam. And then when we built Pixels, we decided as well to build a team in Vietnam. So we basically started out with, I think, around 15 graphic designers who was retouching the images, and like a simple FTP server or something like that. And then clients would be sending us images, and we would be retouching them. Um, One of the first things we did, as I said, technology is kind of built in. So we created an API back in 2011, and we were probably the only company doing retouching who had an API. In reality,
Okay.
the API more or less sent an email to the team in Vietnam saying, "Hey guys, there's some images coming, and here they are. Download them and retouch them." So it wasn't a very technical API, but that opened up in the very early days. We ended up in talks with Amazon because they were looking for someone who could help them retouch images, and they were
Oh,
looking for a
interesting.
tech solution. I think that's kind of what kicked us down. First of all, it was when we realized this is a huge market. We hoped, of course, that it was, but I also think, in some sense, it was. We weren't really sure, but talking to Amazon, I think everything is big when you talk to Amazon.
Yeah.
Um, and then, obviously, we spent, I think, more or less a year working with Amazon. We never ended up making a deal with them, so we didn't get integrated into the platform or anything like that. But we did see that there was a big market. We saw that we need to grow this somehow, and that's when we really started building different systems. In the beginning, it was more the system that would actually take the images and give them to the right editor at the right time. At that time, it was still a very yeah, we talk about it like the furniture business. When you look at that, you we started here in Denmark. We have a lot of really nice furniture being built, at least
Mhm.
over the years. And in the old days, when you wanted to build a chair, you would start one employee would build the whole chair, right? You'd start in the morning, start building, and in the end you would be done with your chair. And in many ways, it was exactly the same with retouching, and I think it is still for a lot of companies. At some point in the process, we realized that we had uh, graphic designers who were doing super advanced stuff that you probably need to at least be retouching for 2 or 3 or 4 years before you have that quality level that will hit, I don't know, Burberry or some luxury brand out there. Um, and we went to these guys and we looked at what they were doing, and we realized the very big part of the work they were doing was actually pretty simple. Something we could take in new graphic designers and probably teach them in a week or a month, something like that. Probably half of their time, or maybe even a little bit more, they were doing this stuff. A lot of that is what we call masking and pathing and stuff like that. Um, and then we basically at 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 a point we were growing, more or less doubling the company every year, both in revenue but also in employees. So we were hitting, I think at that time we were probably 400 or 500 employees,
Wow.
and keep doubling that every year, then at some point you're really struggling just to train the people you need, and just to hire was a big challenge. And then when we at the same time it was super hard delivering to clients, because of course some of them we needed a couple of years of training before we had the skill power. And then we started thinking about it again, back to that chair. Could we have someone build a part of the chair while someone else was doing a different part, and so on? And then we basically ended up building a system that we call SAW, Specialist Assisted Workflow, which is a workflow system where images will go through different SAW steps. And at each of these steps, we'll have specialists who are trained on that specific skill that you need for that step.
Mm.
And then basically today, any image that goes through our system will usually hit maybe 10 different graphic designers in the process. And today as well, quite a lot of AIs as well. And now you also asked about the AI, and yes, definitely it's something we saw. I would say probably, I think we built SAW in 2016, 17, something like that. And as we were doing that, in the beginning, we thought we would have 16 steps. I remember we divided the whole retouching process into
Okay.
16 steps. Today we have 250, I think.
Oh
So,
wow.
of course, as you go into the problem, right, you realize that there's all these differences and nuances once you understand the problem deeper. But it also means we also realized some of these steps were super small and super, in many ways, super simple, but not something we could program a computer to do. So back in those days, in 16 as well, 15, 16, something like that, we started an AI team and basically been working with AI since then. And today, a lot of these different source steps in our system is actually executed by AI as
Mm.
well. Back then, we didn't know it was called agents. We just made source steps, right? But today, we're talking about agents that will go out and do a specialized task and then pass it along to someone else or to a human. That's exactly what we're doing in SAW. Yeah, I think I don't. Now I talked a lot. I don't know if it answered your
That
questions.
was no, that was amazing. My two questions were it's just
Yeah.
you would think of, I mean the introduction of the company and then the impact of AI, and very elegantly packed both. I was like, this story is awesome. So okay, so I have a lot of questions about all of that. I
Hmm.
mean, you guys growing, client acquisition, customers, all this onboarding stuff. But before we get into it, you had a very it seemed like you had a work experience that was very interesting beforehand. So what brought you to the point of, is this your first company also?
No, it's not.
Okay.
So
So what were you doing before Pixels that brought you to the point of starting
yeah,
that company?
together with these my two co-founders, but also like today we I feel like we have a small group of, I don't know, 10 people, something like that, who and most of them I still see today. We One of my co-founders, he started the first company that I joined when I came out of yeah, I call it programmer school. I guess today it's probably engineering or something like that, right?
Okay.
But I'm educated as a developer, and I joined his company as the first employee, and that was in the early days, just before Y2K. So it was in 1999,
Uh-huh.
and we had the whole bubble and all of that. And we decided we needed to make home pages, and we just started doing that for different companies and so on. And then at some point we realized it would be smart to make some sort of a platform that we could build on instead of starting over every time. And then we basically built what we later found out was a CMS system and a content management system. And
Mm.
in that, we built a shopping platform. And we ended up building probably 400 web shops for companies, mostly here in Scandinavia, on that
Wow.
platform. And while we were doing that, we were also creating other small companies or bigger companies. So I think in total, we probably together in those, among those 7, 10 people, we probably started 10 different companies, all within tech. Uh, One of them within hardware. I'm probably never going to do that again. That was a tough one, and and it also didn't end well. And yeah, so we started a lot of companies, and a lot of them had to close down. A few of them we sold, and a few of them are still running today. But I think the big driver for us to create Pixels was that this platform where we're doing all these e-commerce sites, we had a fantastic graphic designer in that company, and I think still to this day he's probably the best graphic designer I ever worked with. And when you're doing that consultancy kind of work where
Mhm.
you go in and you build a website and you get paid, and then you go to the next one, you build the next one. Later in the process, we did start to actually get a subscription in the model as well,
Oh,
because we
good, good,
realized
good.
it's really hard to start at zero every month. But in those days, we were starting at zero. We needed to go out and sell some websites. And we would have this designer. It depended a bit. If we had a lot of works, she would be working on the stuff we already sold. But if we didn't have that much, she would be working on basically offers for clients and making designs. And what happens, I would say 99% of the time, when we came out with one of her designs, showed it to the client, they would be amazed, thinking this looks so great, and then they bought it. We would do all the programming, pull all the products from their ERP systems and images from PIM systems and so on, and put it all in, all their data into the platform. And then we'll go back to the client and say, look, here's your web shop. And often the reaction from clients was, it's not as nice as the design you brought. And then we would bring up the design and we would say, well, it's exactly the logo, it's exactly that
Uh-huh.
footer, everything is exactly what you wanted. And then we realized it was the product images that was basically messing up
Uh,
the e-commerce sites. And back in those days, a lot of e-commerce sites, they didn't have professional photo shoots. Maybe they didn't even have a photo studio. Some of them would just shoot like in the back of the warehouse or something like that. And this was basically what brought us to realize that, hey, there's a problem here that we should try to solve somehow, help these clients with their product images, and that became the start of Pixels.
well, so if you were doing, if you were in this environment, where you had all this inertia, these ideas, this momentum, starting a company here, doing these different experiments here. Have you always been drawn to starting a company, entrepreneurship, or did it just happen? Like, how did you end up in a space where
Hmm?
you are building companies, and why do you
Yeah.
continue to do it?
I think it's a great question, and I asked myself that as well a few times down the road. I come from a family of people who didn't create companies. So all my mother and father, they worked for the government all their life in
Mm,
schools and stuff like that. My siblings, they have fantastic jobs. They make a huge difference, but none of them have started a company. So it's not something that came like from my that kind of surroundings, right? I think I want to say my co-founder, a guy called Thomas Kragelund, he definitely has this like deep inside him. I think he could never work for someone else. He needs to be the
okay.
boss, and he was the
Yeah.
first guy who hired me. And when he did that, I got deeply involved in the company, and I was young and I needed the money. What do you say? But I also had all the time in the world, so I worked like crazy back then, um, and. And I think he saw that he liked kind of the energy I put into it and all of that. And at some point he said, "Come on, you should join as an owner as well." And I
Huh.
before he did that, I never really thought about that. And then I got involved and I realized as well over the years that I could lead teams of technical people. I think over the years as well, I found that I'm very much I'm very much drawn to the people, both the people within the company that matters a lot to me, but also clients, also the whole ecosystem around startups. And I think once you start getting into that, once you meet all those fantastic people that are in this environment, at least for me, it meant that hey, I'm never going back to an ordinary job, you could say. I need this now, and
Mm,
definitely, yeah, that was probably I don't know. It's probably now 20 years ago. I started
okay.
thinking like that, and that
Got it. Got it.
then once you get into that, I think your mind settles in that you need to build stuff, right? That's where the real excitement lies. So yeah.
Well, I love this. Okay, so then going back to the start of Pixels and the story that you told, and at the very beginning, because that is one of my questions, is at the very beginning, how does stuff like that start? Because I think it's important for people to hear um, stories about how different people really get from absolute zero, like thin air, just idea to uh, actually something, some version of something, and then you have a business. There's all of these
Yeah.
like steps in between that I don't think I talked about enough. So I appreciate you already touching on the fact that you said you had the designer. It was she was incredible. All that whole experience was really great. And so overall, the big picture that you put forward was that in the course of what has it been, 15 years now, 14
Yeah, I
years
guess
of
so.
Pixels.
Next January is 15 years. Crazy. Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you.
um, there's so much to cover in a story that is 15 years long, and so I guess I'll leave it up to you where you feel like you want to go with the question. But what has your experience been uh, growing the company as far as the two main things? First of all, obviously it's just the basic question of acquiring customers, whether they're it's inbound through marketing, whether it's outbound, whatever you guys did, and then also how has the company changed? Like as far as who you are, like what your product is. I mean, you talked about a lot of technical innovations that you guys went through, which is
Mhm.
really cool. But in your own words, how has the company changed? So then, what has your experience been acquiring new business, and then how's the company changed?
Yeah. It was actually funny for the first. Well, we knew when the previous companies we started were, I wouldn't say locals, but they were focusing on Scandinavia as their to acquire clients, right? And we knew when we started Pixels, we knew that we wanted to do something super international. We wanted the globe basically, and we definitely wanted to go to America, and we wanted to take over Europe, and we wanted to
Yeah.
go to Asia, and all of that. So that was an ambition we had from the very early days, and I think part of that is truly just to travel, see the world, meet different people than the ones you meet in Scandinavia, and so on. So I think that was one of our ideas from the beginning, and one of the things we did very early on, because we were also very much in doubt about how do we scale this business? Do we go all in on product-led growth, and it wasn't called it back then, but it was
Sure.
that we were discussing, or do we what do we do? So actually, what we did was we created, I think it was five different subsidiaries in different regions of the world. And then we found partners, and we would own those companies 50-50. And all of them were allowed to run the company as they wanted to. In Germany, there was one in UK, we started one in America, even one in Brazil. Um, and then more or less all of these partners would run different types of actions to try to acquire clients. Right? Some would go all in on search engine optimization and AdWords and all of that. Others would just pick up the phone and start calling and so on. And then with these guys, we still had, of course, we were delivering the product, you could say, and they were all kind of getting the same product. We could adjust a bit here and there, but it was more or less the same product. And then once a year, I think it was, we would gather everyone up from all the countries and meet up and basically have a lot of discussions. What's working in Belgium, what's working in Brazil, and so on, and trying to inspire each other, you could say. And I think this really allowed us. First of all, it allowed us to open up in 5, 6 different regions within 2 years, something like that, which would have been completely hopeless if we had done it ourselves. And at that time as well, we were still running bootstrapped, so we also didn't have the money to just throw into it. Um, and I think it really helped us a lot in spreading out fast globally, but also in then everyone testing out these different, you could say, go-to-market ideas. Also, very quickly gave us all kinds of experience.
So
Um,
all the different subsidiaries you're saying would test different things. Okay.
yeah, they would basically, each of them would have a partner, and that partner would have an idea of how they would go to their market,
Got it.
right? Um, I would say then after some years, it also became clear that there was some markets that were winning. There were some strategies that were winning, and at that point, I think this strategy complicated things a lot, because now at some point we looked at each other. We said, "Hey, okay, now we started putting down everything that was working in the different countries." Some of these partners were super excited to hear what was working and implementing that from the other partners and so on. Some were not so much. And in the end, we basically had a playbook that we knew this works. When we do this, we can sell this product.
Hmm.
And then this whole construction kind of turned into a weakness as well, because suddenly we couldn't go out to these partners and tell them, here's the playbook. This is how we're doing it. At the same time, we also saw we started getting more and more clients who were also global. So they would have companies in Germany and in UK and in America, and they were seeing us acting very differently in those different
Hmm.
markets. And maybe they could get one deal here and a very different deal here and so on, which also became a weakness for us. So at some point, we ended up basically buying back all these partners, buying them out. Some of them we bought out with shares, so they became a part of the global company. Some of them we ended up buying out with money to get, you know, in control of our go-to-market again. And I think
Wow.
you can always discuss if we also looked at each other. Some of them got a good deal, I would say, quite a lot of money, and of course we had to pay that. And I remember we were it always hurts a bit to pay a lot of money, right? But on the other hand, we also said, hey, that it's actually also amazing what we got in a very short period of time, and what would that have
Yeah.
cost if we'd done it in a very different way. So I think if I were to start a company today, I probably wouldn't go with that. But I'm also at a different stage in my life. I could probably find someone who would let me have some money. So with maybe with a share or whatever, with some kind of a deal, and then go out and do it myself. I would probably do that today. On the other hand, we also got some amazing people working for us who really felt that they owned the company because they did, and
Mm.
that I don't know if we could have bought that. So I think in many ways, I think it was a genius idea. In some ways, it was also a little bit expensive to clean up when we needed to do that.
Yeah. Well, where does it leave you now?
Well, now we when was that? Back in I forgot. We at some point we got some investors into the company and ran with that money for a while. We were burning money for many years, and at some point there was a big shift in that investor group, in who was the lead investor and so on. And at some point, we knew that we needed to part ways. So and I think the investors felt the same. So we ended up going in the market and basically, you could say, sell the company. We today we ended up being bought by a private equity fund from Sweden called Adelis,
Mm.
and quite a lot of employees as well. So the employees of Pixels own around 20% of the company, and Adelis owns around 80% of the company. So today we are owned by private equity. Um, that has also been quite an amazing journey. It's quite. I think we had meetings with probably 6 or 7 big venture capitals and private equity funds, like serious meetings and due diligence processes and stuff like that. And it's quite amazing to experience that world as well. It's yeah, you learn a lot from it, I would say, and you also really, if you hate going to exams, then don't do a due diligence, because you'll have some extremely clever people asking you some very hard questions that you then
Wow.
need to find answers to. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So what? Okay. So within that context, then, with the environment with everything that this company has been to you, with everything that it is now, with the stage that it's at, and congratulations about that. I mean, this is just continuously a story about like, hey, we tried something. Hey, we learned. Hey, we all. I love stories like that. What is the biggest hurdle as far as right now that you feel like you guys
right now,
are
yeah, that's a
facing?
great question.
Whether it becomes whether whatever it's related to, growth of the business, new customer
Yeah,
acquisition, or something else.
I think I I want to say we've truly become a global company, also with our client base and so on. And I didn't realize before. Of course, you hear in the news people talking about the environment, the global environment. I didn't realize how much that matters to to a global company, and how hard it can hit when different markets close down, or when you have a war here or war there and stuff like that. So I would say all of that is tough to navigate, I would say, also because when you build companies and do your own companies, you get used to. I have a feeling I can change everything, right? I realize when it comes to those big global things, I can't change everything. There's a lot of stuff
Mm.
that just happens, and I can't really do much about it. So you just need to learn to navigate that, right?
Interesting.
Um, so I would say that that is definitely a challenge, and will probably continue to be a challenge for some
How is it
years.
also an opportunity for you?
Of course as well. Of course it is. I think it does open up completely new discussions. For instance, our product, I would say we we can sell our product in a market that's growing. Then often we sell it to people who they're just scaling so fast they need to. During COVID, when that hit for real, and all the e-commerce shops started realizing they were not closing down, they were scaling like crazy. We got so much business because suddenly they just needed these images and they needed to scale, right? But in a market that's going down, we also have an opportunity to sell because we can often help them save cost.
Mm.
So that, of course, opens up some opportunities for stuff like that. But I would say, in general, I would rather have all our clients not be too nervous. I think that actually what we feel most is that they're nervous. They're nervous about making investment, making changes, because you don't
Okay.
know what will happen tomorrow, what will happen
Yeah.
in the market, right? But I think if that's also probably not the biggest hurdle we're facing. I think actually the biggest hurdle we're facing right now is with all the technology changes that's happening right now, and all the AIs that I think all of us are using all the
Yeah.
time, right? Um, we've been using it, as I said, for many years, but all of a sudden now it's different, right? Because it's right there in our hands. Suddenly we have a chat that can actually answer crazy questions we didn't believe we could answer, right? And I would say the biggest hurdle is actually figuring out how do we take all of these components, work with partners. Which partners should we work with? Because 100 new comes out every week, and 50 of them are bankrupt in 2 months, right?
Yeah.
And it's super hard navigating that whole thing, and then helping our clients navigate this and figure out where can we actually provide value with all of these
Mm.
new technologies. Where can we do it in a safe way so they don't get sued and get in trouble that way? Where can we do it in a way where clients accept it and like it? There's many challenges to navigate in that whole space right now, I think.
Well, with all of those challenges and all the work that you're doing, continue to do, what inspires you?
Ooh, I think I already said people, right? And that
Uh,
really does inspire me. I have so many friends I got through the years, and some of them I still work with, some of them I used to work with, some of them are clients, and so on. I'm really inspired by people and love working with people. Um, I think apart from that, I think that this feeling of being able to build something, that
mm.
is, I think that's what Thomas, when he hired me back then, and we started building the first company. Uh, I Once you see that, hey, basically with as a programmer, you kind of start with nothing. Of course, you need a computer, right? But it's you need very little, and then you just start typing, and suddenly you have something that some people want to pay thousands for, right? And
Mm.
suddenly you have something that really helps them, that helps people do something they couldn't before. And I think that that is just the greatest feeling when you nail that, when you see people being happy about the product you're giving them, when you see them doing something they couldn't before. I just love that feeling. That is amazing.
Nice. Yes. I love that. Well, if anyone else was inspired to follow along with your story, what's the best way to do that?
Well, I would probably say on LinkedIn,
All right.
and that's where I'm most active, I would say. And I have a fantastic marketing team now. You asked before what changed. Part of what changed is, for instance, we have a marketing team now, and they will
Okay.
push us if we forget to post on LinkedIn. They'll be like, "Hey guys, you need to remember." So
Yeah.
that's probably where I'm most active.
Good. Awesome. Well, thank you
And
so
connect
much.
as well. I would love that. I love to connect with people as well. So
Good.
please
Yes,
do that.
we were connected, and we said, "Hey, you want to do this?" And you said immediately yes.
Yes,
So
definitely.
thank you so much, Janus. This was a great conversation, and I'm excited to
Likewise.
keep in touch and see
Yes.
where you guys go.
Thank you. See you.
All right.